Hello and welcome to our lecture on the Associated Press Stylebook 2020 Social Media Guidelines. These are guidelines that we will be using in our journalism department at Moorpark College along with our student newspaper, the Moorpark Reporter. Okay, so the purpose of the Associated Press social media guidelines are to present a foundation that is relevant today, but can similarly be applied to tomorrow's digital landscape. So they set out a series of guidelines that kind of address the elementary or beginning level understanding of just the basics of social media. So these can also go in further depth in your own departments, or they can go further in depth definitely once you reach your career goal or you're in a new publication. So social media has become kind of like the game changer for how we gather information and release our news stories. With the majority of the world's internet users on social media, most stay up to date on news by checking their Twitter feeds. So it's imperative that journalists are informed on breaking news and able to supply accurate breaking news stories. According to the Associated Press, the fundamentals of their news cooperative is accuracy, speed, and honesty, and they have remained paramount for the last 170 years and will continue to do so with these social media guidelines. So the social media guidelines that they've presented, they help to extend those principles by urging journalists to apply the same standards to their use of social networks while addressing the challenges and opportunities that are specific to these new platforms. So, social media in journalism. Social media refers to the services that allow the sharing of information and content and the formation of communities through online and mobile networks of people. How are these services reflected in the media workspace? Or how do journalists use social media in their work? So first, they track down sources. The social media allows you to track down sources, such as someone who has witnessed a news event or have a direct stake in a reporting topic. Secondly, they help to gather user-generated content, such as photos or videos that a news provider may want to acquire and publish as part of their news report. Thirdly, social media helps to search for news tips or discussion trends. So these trends might lead to a form or back up a story. So they can lead to a story, or they can lead to an idea for the launch of a story. They can help back up a story with certain sources revealed. It just kind of depends. Number 4, social media helps to directly report news developments. So this would be breaking news stories. They would help to highlight stories recently published. You can always share or like a publication or published work of one of your colleagues or your own, and this will get further kind of viewership of your articles. Number 5, social media helps to produce and distribute original content, especially content that is tailored to a given platform, such as a GIF, a vertical video, blog post, or a live broadcast. Number 6, of course, social media is used to network. So this means to find news stories and keep up with existing ones, to find new sources and to keep up with existing sources, to interact with news consumers directly, to inform their reporting and to promote our work as journalists, and also to share links that provide an additional entry point for existing journalism. So networking is huge with social media. You can network at the professional level among colleagues. You can network by sharing your own work and your own publications work. You can network by just creating a kind of following of your own work. So people that follow you as a specific like sports beat reporter, as like in sports or something. So lastly, social media helps to observe how others communicate and respond to news, specifically authority sources such as the sheriff's departments, politicians, and so forth. So we want to see how they're going to respond to news, and we can watch that with something comes out that was something can come out in the news, and we will watch the president's response, or we will watch the governor's response, or similarity, we'll watch the president of a university's response to it. So we can see how they react and what their responses are on Twitter or other social media platforms, and use that as kind of a basis to start up a story. So let's talk about our social media accounts, our personal ones. So, according to the AP, there are many ways to tackle this issue, but the bottom line is that for the most part, the public treat all journalists on social media as if they are journalists 24/7, no matter what their personal account may offer. And oftentimes, journalists, noted for being neutral and unbiased observers, will be held accountable for their views on and off their professional username or accounts. So that means anything that you tweet, anything that you like, that you share, whether it's from your personal account or your professional account, you will be noted. Your opinion will be noted. So you just have to be careful. Ideally, you want to be presenting yourself as a neutral, kind of covering all angles type of person. So you have to remember that one, not all social networks allow users to create more than one profile. So you might be stuck with just your personal account, and you just have to kind of be aware of that. You need to prepare for all contact to be linked. We'll talk a little bit more about this in the end, about digital protection for journalism, but you need to prepare for all the content to be leaked, whether it's personal or professional accounts. Posts should be a reflection of your communicative nature with full awareness that some personal content could be leaked. So again, just be aware that you could be watched. You are probably watched, everything that you are posting. Also, we need to look out for social credibility. This is gained for journalists through consistency and by building connections through interactions and sharing. So, on your personal and professional media accounts, you're going to be looking at social credibility, and this will be the amount of times you respond, how you post, who you respond to, your response. Is it, vulgar? Is it professional? Is it helping for the greater good? Social credibility. Will people vouch for you on Twitter, or are you known for just losing it and ranting, so to speak? So this is a big one. Everyone will have their own style and their own flair. They'll also have their own parameters. But as far as the Moorpark Reporter goes, we are, a collegiate newspaper that seeks a professional, well-rounded student social media platform. Okay. Vetting sources found on social media. So number one, you want to never, right off the top, never launch a story with your main topic being backed up by only a tweet or a post. That is insufficient background information, insufficient research. You must go to the original source, message them in the social media account you found the quote in, and request an interview. You always double check background information and get a re-quote. Okay, so that's huge. You cannot just pull a tweet and base your entire story off of it. That's insufficient reporting. Okay, so don't lift a quote. Make sure that you double check identity. This just came out. A 17-year-old was found guilty of doing the biggest hijacking of Twitter, and he hijacked the accounts of former President Obama and Bill Gates and started a kind of campaign that had people putting in a ton of money through their Twitter accounts. So double check identity. You might be talking to a falsified user. Due to consistent hacking and lack of face-to-face conversations, there is never full coverage for quotes on social networks. So look for that. Look for as much identity that you can secure when you're looking through their accounts, and make sure that you can get almost even try for a face-to-face interview. Once we get COVID under control, try for another form of contact after you get a hold of them through social media. Okay. Photos, video, and content. Again, you want to find the original source. So if a source claims to be an official from a company, organization, or government agency, you need to call the place of business to confirm the identity, just as you would if a source called on the phone. And if the source provides factual information that's central to a story, always pursue at least one additional source for confirmation. That also is the same with photos. So just as you would never pick up a photo off the street and deem it yours and factual to your story without knowing where you got it from, you are to never use any type of content in a story without verification. AP states you'll need to verify the authenticity of the piece of content, and you will also need to determine who controls the copyright of the material and get permission from that person or organization to use it. Okay? So you need to make sure that you always have the original source. When you find the original source, you double check that you're going to use it. Number 4 is be cautious and tenacious in recovering original sources. AP states if you find a social networking page or feed that appears to belong to a person who is central to a story, especially if you can't get the confirmation from that person, as we discussed, and everything being hacked, then you need to be wary of presenting a story without solid backup. So if you really can't find the original source, it probably shouldn't count as a source, and it should probably not be in your story. Okay? Moving on, characteristics of social media. So again, according to AP, there are a few rules that apply when adjusting to social media platforms. So this is if you're going to create your own account. This is something that we go over in our spring MO3 advanced digital media and writing and reporting. Okay, so this is an advanced course that happens in the spring at Moorpark College, and we create our own website and kind of streamline all of our social media accounts. So number one would be handle and username. So when deciding on a username, you want to choose something clear cut and easy to remember. First name and last name is always a good option. And when you work for a publication, you'll have your own publication in your username. So if you work for the AP, obviously you would have that in your handle. Okay, for photo, you want to upload a professional looking photo of yourself and use it on all networks. That's incredibly important because this will be kind of your recognition, your branding, and your image. So you want to use that photo on your LinkedIn, your Twitter, your Instagram, your Snapchat, everything that you use in order to contact people specifically with your job as a journalist, especially if you're a freelancer. You want to use that headshot as your professional branding image. Okay, your bio needs to be accurately describing who you are. You include a personal tidbit or two, but you remember that you're always representing either the publication you work for or yourself if you're a freelance writer, and that you are professional. So your bios, which again we talk about in our MO3 course, can be long or short. It just depends on where you are posting it. It's good to have at least 3 versions saved, okay? Your goals would be something that you're going to define specifically on like LinkedIn. You're going to decide to kind of give some professional goals. So you want to make sure that you kind of have an assessment of goals on how you also respond on social media. So how many times are you going to tweet? How many times are you going to post? What comments are you going to post? What articles are you going to post comments on? So you need to make sure that that is a goal that you have kind of set aside for yourself. It is professional. You always come off level-headed in your responses. You kind of are setting up, okay, I'm gonna have a post run every day on all of my social media accounts, or every 5 times a day on all my social media accounts. And that can be a goal that you can start setting, and you have just kind of an idea of who you want to represent on your social media accounts. 5 is build credibility. This comes through posting regularly. So if people see you on Twitter and you become active on Twitter, you're going to get pretty well known for however you are posting. So you want to show that you're active, engaged, and committed to the tool. You can't parachute in and expect to have everyone's trust instantly. That's how you build credibility, and that's how you build people wanting to kind of be a part of the network you're creating. 6 is connect and interact. You want to seek out people who have the same interests as you and pay attention when they post. So if you find someone, a journalist or reporter, that you idolize and you like their style, then start connecting with them, interacting with them, and also try to kind of mirror their approach. But also, you want to be yourself. So no one wants to interact with a robot. You can control how much you want to share, but you need to make it clear that you're human. So use engaging conversational language while maintaining a professional tone. Lastly, you want to share what you see. Journalists have a front row seat to history, so use that vantage point to engage with people. If you witness a major news development, write about it. Okay? So those are our characteristics of social media. We're going to move on in this lecture to the pros and cons of social media platform lists. Okay?